What's up guys, welcome back to Gladiators Tribe. My name is Grisha and lately I got to thinking, and by lately I mean the last 4 or 5 years, that tennis has been going through some really rough times. Like with the paddle and the pickleball boom and the era of short content consumption, 5-hour-long matches and rain delays and uncertain schedule in tennis has really not been helping popularize our sport. And although lately tennis has also been gaining popularity, especially amongst the ladies out there, which I can't ignore and I absolutely love, the overall picture is really not painting to be so positive. Especially now that out of the big four, the only one that's left is Novak Djokovic, and he really cannot physically carry the entire sport on his shoulders. And especially considering that out of the top 5 most popular sports in the world, tennis is the only sport that is not a team sport. And in team sports, every team has at least like 2 superstars that are worldwide known and that always create some kind of talks in the media amongst their fans and audience, and this way they popularize their sport. With tennis, this concept gets really complicated. And although sometimes these superstars might be rather controversial people and the news that they create aren't always the most positive ones, for the popularity of the sport, it's always better to create some kind of drama than just not create anything and just stay timid, quiet, and kind of like follow your career path. And the whole reason for this really long intro was to guide to my main point, and that is that tennis is really lacking these superstars that are gonna popularize our sport. And to prove this, I'm going to rank some of the best players from Showman to Jannick Sinner. And of course here a disclaimer is very much necessary, and this top was not created to offend anyone by any means, and obviously Jannick Sinner is kind of in this category, not because I think that he's a bad player. He's an absolute machine and he's one of the best players in the world, and I have to absolutely admit it, and I totally respect the guy, but for the purpose of this video, I decided to put Jannick Sinner in this category because he's actually a good representation of where I'm seeing tennis going, because he's an absolute top elite insane player, but as of a character for the sport and as of someone who creates a lot of talks out there in the media and amongst the audience and the fans, he's not a really good example. So yes, I'm gonna be making a lot more of these small disclaimers because, you know, this list might get slightly controversial and create a lot of talks in the comments. Hopefully that's kind of what I'm aiming for. But without further ado, let's start ranking players from Showman to Jannick Sinner. And the first one on the list is Stan the man himself, Stanislas Wawrinka. And I mean, the guy has one of the most beautiful backhands out there, not just one-handed backhands, but backhands in general. And I think he's a really fun guy, especially when he won that 2014 Roland Garros, which he was absolutely not expecting. I think he beat Nadal and Djokovic on his way to winning the title, and I think he didn't even believe it himself, judging by his interviews. But I mean, he's a funny guy, but I wouldn't say he's like the tennis player that people think of when they think of tennis, you know, and kind of like stories around tennis. So I'll put him in the pretty good category. I think that's where it fits. Next up is Rafael Nadal. I mean, should I really even talk about this? He's obviously one of the GOATs. He has to go in the Showman category simply because the amount of Grand Slams that he won. Everyone knows Nadal. He's an amazing character for the sport. He's an amazing guy to represent our sport, and he does it in the best possible way. And I gotta say that actually Nadal, when he speaks in Spanish, he's a way more interesting guy than when he speaks in English. It's very funny because he actually switches completely, and that's kind of fun. But yeah, unfortunately, not everyone can listen to him speak in Spanish because Spanish, but yeah, I'm lucky enough to have learned the language and I can appreciate Nadal in his different kind of paradigm. Okay, next up is Ugo Humbert, and preparing for this video, I actually tried to find some kind of fun story about him to be like, yeah, this happened, but you know, overall, not many people know him, blah, 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 but I couldn't. And yeah, I guess Ugo Humbert has to go in the Jannick Sinner category. Yeah, because, and actually last year when I went to Dubai and I did sparring with Daniel Medvedev, for example, he actually beat him in, I think that was semifinal. Yeah, Ugo Humbert beat Daniel Medvedev in the semifinal, and it was such a huge upset for me, not just because, you know, I like Daniel Medvedev and, you know, I played with him, but also just because the final for me kind of became slightly boring. I don't know if it's just me, maybe you guys love him. Again, disclaimer, I don't think he's a bad player, I just think that he's not a crazy good showman. And talking about Daniel Medvedev, he's actually next on our list, and I think that Daniel Medvedev is actually a really good representation of what I would like to see more players be like. Because, okay, he has been top #1, right? He's like elite, kind of like high-end star, but it's not just because he has achieved a lot that I think he's a good representation. Obviously, you know, I could say guys just win more titles. No, that's not the case. He just creates a lot of drama. He's controversial. Some people hate him, some people love him, and that's kind of what creates this, you know, fuzz in the media, and that's what matters. You know, when he kicks the cameras, when he, you know, does weird things on court, his technique, everything is just controversial about the guy, and everyone knows Daniil Medvedev, and everyone knows who he is, and I think he is, yeah, I think he is a showman. Definitely, yes. Next up is Taylor Fritz, and here's the thing, like, the guy tries to do things to popularize tennis. He took part in the Netflix show, I don't remember what it was called, Breakpoint, I think, that I really didn't like, but, you know, he did allow to film himself in the pretty important parts of his, I think it was during the Indian Wells when he actually beat Nadal, having injured his ankle or something. I don't exactly remember, don't quote me on this. But yeah, he has done things, he has tried things, and then his girlfriend is also trying to kind of popularize the sport. I don't think it's really working that well, but you know, it's just my opinion. Maybe you have a different opinion on this. So I wouldn't put him in the meh category, but I don't think he's a great example of what tennis needs. So I'll put him in the decent category. Oh, this is gonna create so much hate. Anyways, Carlitos Alcaraz. I mean, yes. No questions asked. He's a really, at first when he just was kind of rising to the top, not when he was just rising to the top, but when he first became #1, I was like, seriously, we had like Federer, we had Nadal, Djokovic, and now we have Carlos Alcaraz. Who the hell is this guy? But now I'm actually starting to really like Carlos. He's fun. He's very happy all the time, creates a lot of positive aura around him. He's always, you know, very communicative. He's always speaking to everyone, you know, always very nice to the children, and, you know, the interviews are fun. And although his English is not ideal, he, you know, still does a really good job at, you know, going beyond just answering the question that the interviewer asks him, right? He can joke about it, he can do something, and then plus, you know, just his tennis is absolutely insane. I don't know if you've seen the Roland Garros final of 2025. This was just like one of the best matches in the last few years for sure. So, I mean, he's a great example of what we need in tennis. Who's next? Oop! Alexander Bublik. Guys, I don't know when I'm posting this video, but just recently, yesterday actually, Bublik won the title in Halle against Daniil Medvedev, and that was a show in of itself. But again, this is a good example of a very controversial person because he's always swearing, always insulting. He's being a douchebag towards his opponents, which I think is not good. Obviously, it's not something you should be doing, but at least it kind of creates the drama. So if at some point Bublik's opponent actually punches him in the face after he has insulted him, that would be something cool for, you know, for our sport. Because it will be drama, it will be all over the news, absolutely everywhere. Hopefully nobody gets disqualified, but something like this could potentially happen, and I think that's a good thing. And plus, yes, congratulations Alexander Bublik for winning the title in Halle. He actually played really good, and he wasn't really, you know, showing that much of his character as he usually does, and it obviously has to do with the fact that he was winning the entire time, right? And when he's winning, he's trying to stay concentrated and kind of focused on the goal and doesn't really do all the Bublik stuff, which if we see him winning more, he's gonna be doing less of, but I guess we'll see. But as of right now, definitely here, definitely. Ooh, Andy Roddick. Guys, I think this is my favorite, by far my favorite player in the sense of showman, charisma, just overall, you know, the kind of people I want to see more in tennis, because this guy is like one of the most funny people out there in general. I don't know if you've seen his Served with Andy Roddick podcast, I think it's called, but it's just, he can really talk well and explain himself very well. So whenever he's kind of like explaining some details about tennis or whatever, it really captivates your attention, and plus he can insert some really cool jokes. And I don't know if you've seen his interview with Roger Federer, absolute masterpiece. So yeah, definitely, most definitely showman. And I know that as of right now, we're seeing more showman than anything else, but I'll get to my conclusion further on in the video and you'll see where I'm taking this. Andy Murray. What sucks is that Andy Murray, for me, has become a showman after he has ended his career, like when all of these jokes and his quotes have started to appear in the internet. But he's actually a very fun, charismatic, and cool dude, which I never knew he actually was until he retired recently. So yeah, it sucks that they're not working together with Novak Djokovic anymore, because that was kind of like a cool partnership, which I kind of knew that wasn't gonna work, but you know, it was just fun again for the media. But yes, definitely showman. over here. Draper, good player. Girls love him because he's good looking, but again, nothing too crazy. Doesn't really do much on court that is, you know, out of the ordinary. So might be the first guy I put in the meh category, maybe decent. Nah, meh. There you go. All right. Casper Ruud. Lorenzo Musetti. I've actually played a little bit with the guy at the head event, and that was cool. He has a pretty good forehand, but he's a good player, but I don't know, I guess decent. Yeah. Nick Kyrgios, boom. Perfect example of a controversial person who most people, not most people, but very many people really, really don't like and think he's a douchebag. Maybe he might be a douchebag. I've never met him, I don't know, but he's great for tennis. A lot of people, he's not even in the top 10 or 20, but people know him, right? People outside of tennis actually know who Nick Kyrgios is, and that's a really, really good sign of, you know, someone who's popularizing the sport. So I'm gonna put him in the showman category. Boom. Just like that. Novak Djokovic, what can I say? You know, probably one of my favorite players out there. You know, the guy who has won pretty much everything. There's nothing that he hasn't beaten a record in. So, you know, everyone knows Novak. Top star, superstar, as I said, carrying the whole sport on his shoulders right now. Hopefully he doesn't retire ever. Right here. Okay, Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton, I think, is actually pretty decent, but maybe even pretty good in the sense of showmanage, because, you know, this whole phone putting down thing that he did at, I don't know what tournament that was, but that was, again, all over the internet. So that's good. He's kind of like this happy, fun, jumping around young guy who's doing pretty well. So I'm gonna put him next to Wawrinka, I think. Olga Rune, I don't know. Here. Yeah, Roger not even gonna say anything, guys. It's Roger, right? Federer, no words needed. Marat Safin, same as Roger, goes right here because, I mean, some of the stories that I've heard of Marat Safin, I don't know if they're true or not, but I've heard very many that I'm not even gonna explain here because of YouTube censorship and I don't wanna get banned. But that also creates a lot of talks amongst not just tennis players, but just everyone around the world, and that's definitely good. And when he became the coach of Andrei Rublev, when they were traveling to tournaments, there was more attention and more cameras and more people around Marat Safin rather than Rublev, which, you know, is a huge sign. Plus, ex-world #1, you know, cool guy. And I mean, he's backhand, I'm sorry, but that's just something else. Francis Tiafoe. I put him in the same category as Ben Shelton because I think they're friends and I think they're kind of in the same kind of league when it comes to creating fuzz. So yeah, he's gonna go right here. Boom. Alexander Zverev. Great serve, great backhand. Jokes sometimes in the interviews, lately especially, you know, it's fun to hear it, but I don't know, I guess maybe decent. Matteo Berrettini, I mean, again, a guy that is good looking, the girls love him, but doesn't do much beyond that, I guess. Maybe I'm just a guy, so I can't judge it properly, but Alex de Minaur, this guy, I love him. I wouldn't say he's a showman, but he's just, you know, very humble, easygoing guy who has a good sense of humor. You know, sometimes stories appear about him in the social media, so I'll put him in the pretty good category. Tommy Paul, either decent or meh. I like Tommy Paul, so let's put him in the decent. All right. Jannick Sinner. Andrei Rublev. Although I myself don't think that he's necessarily a showman who creates shows and, you know, is really fun during the interviews, but just because of the way he is, people really like him and watch his interviews and really, you know, he has a really, really strong fan base. So I myself maybe would put him in the meh category, but I can't do it because, you know, objectively, people really love him. Not for the tennis, because I love his tennis, I love his forehand. I think he's one of the best players out there. Obviously, he's top 5 now, I think. But yeah, I think either decent or pretty good. Decent or pretty good?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay.
Masterful.
Next up is Andre Agassi. I mean, again, a legend of the sport. Absolute showman. Definitely goes here. no questions asked. Grigor Dimitrov, he's actually a good example of not just a good-looking guy, like the guys from the meh category, but one that actually also, does things beyond just looking good. And I mean, he's one-handed backhand, his technique overall is just beautiful, so that's gonna go to the pretty good category. And honestly, I have to say that maybe the guys, the younger guys that are in the meh category, for example, as they grow older and kind of, become a little more loose and open to, joke around and stuff, they might get better in that sense. So, you never know, but I'm just judging the situation as of right now. And then, of course, last but not least, myself. I definitely am putting myself right here because where else am I gonna go, right? So here is the conclusion that I was talking about. As you can see, there's more people in the Showman category than in any other category, of course, but the problem is, if we exclude everyone who's not currently even playing, Nadal will have to go, Roddick will have to go, Murray will have to go, oof, Roger Federer, Agassi, Marat Safin, they all are not currently playing tennis anymore, which is very sad, but that's the way it is. And now if we also remove people who are not in the top 10, which means that, the tennis kind of media isn't really showing them that much, in this case, Bublik is gonna have to go, Kyrgios is bouncing as well, me, myself, again, I'm not in the top 10. And then if we also take a look at the pretty good category, same thing. Wawrinka is not in the top 10. Tiafoe, I don't think he's in the top 10. I'm not sure about Diminor, but Grigor Dimitrov is definitely not in the top 10. And just like that, we're left with pretty much 6 people who I've ranked in the Showman and pretty good category. And in my opinion, that's just not enough, because if you take every single other sport out of the top 5 most popular sports, they have a lot more superstars that are all over the news, all over the internet. Everyone knows them, millions of subscribers, and followers on all kinds of social media. And that's just my main question to tennis and my main concern when it comes to the popularity of my favorite sport. And again, as I said, with the competition of paddle and pickleball, which makes it even more complicated for our sport to thrive. This is what I think about this whole situation. Again, the huge disclaimer, I respect every single one of the players on this list. I think they're absolute awesome and insane tennis players, and I would love to play with every single one of them if I get the chance. I really am looking forward to checking out the comment section below this video, because I really want to know if you share this opinion that I have, that it might be slightly controversial, or if you think that I'm completely wrong. I'm gonna read every single comment. If you want to share your opinion, your ideas on this topic, feel absolutely free. But for now, that's it from me for today. My name is Grisha, you're watching Gladiators Tribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.